a pain point might be quality of service or timely delivery, but the business problem to be addressed is could be team alignment. You need to have a culture of throwing away if it does not meet your purpose. And now that's a hard one. And that hasn't changed.
I always like to start these things with a quote. And today we're changing the world with technology, Bill Gates. And today I have Ram Prasad to talk a little bit more about that. He is the CEO of Dillons, a fractional CTO service for technology-focused startups, small business owners, medium-sized companies, and not-for-profits. With over 20 plus years of experience in the tech industry, he offers strategic guidance, focus, and direction to ensure that the technology is aligned with the overall goals of the business. Ram, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Zivko. It was a pleasure to chat here with you.
I think I have a lot of questions because everybody throws the word CTO, fractional CTO, without a lot of background. Can you first tell us a little bit more about what does a CTO do first, and then what would a fractional CTO do?
So I love your quote, Bill Gates quote. The technology is changing
The world.
the
Yes.
world, yeah. So the Dellens quote equivalent is technology leadership is changing the startup world. So what does a CTO do is exactly that. It changes the technology leadership of the organization. So a CTO does two things. One, it strategizes, it creates a strategy for both short-term and long-term growth. Because when a CTO is engaged in an organization, whether it's a full-time or a fractional CTO, there are short-term pain points. So you need to address the short-term pain points. You need to create a strategy which addresses the short-term pain points while keeping the long-term in mind and creating a roadmap for the long term. So that is the first and foremost thing a CTO does. What I have observed in a good CTO, in addition, is they evangelize the company, the technology, and the product. So they are on podcast hosts like the one we are on today. They post on LinkedIn and Twitter and X. They talk about it at every opportunity they can. So because every company is a technology company, and you need to speak about it, you need to promote it, not from a sales perspective, but from a technology architecture, technology roadmap, technology growth. And those are the two things a good CTO does.
It's interesting that we're talking about the short-term pains while keeping the long-term ones in mind. What are some of the short-term pains that you've seen repeat time and time again when you start engaging with some of your clients?
Short-term pains is why our clients call us. So we are intimately familiar with short-term pains. Everybody forgets the long-term growth opportunity when there's short-term pain. The short-term pains are the product is not meeting customer expectations. It's buggy. It's full of flaws. The quality of the service that's rendered is low. There's performance issues. There is a team misalignment. There is things are not getting done rapidly or as the client expects or as the company expects. Those are typical short-term pain points. And that's when we come in, because the customer has customers waiting in the pipeline, but the team is not delivering. The team is not delivering good quality code and so there's no immediate sale, or there's frustration from the customer standpoint. Those are the typical short-term pain points.
When you're in this position, to me it sounds like there is overlaps with other departments. It's not like in an isolation that the CTO operates, because you were mentioning the production, but you also were mentioning the sales side. Does a CTO or a fractional CTO get involved in the sales part or in the marketing part with user sentiment to understand what doesn't work or what is the feedback on the buggy product?
Yeah, a good CTO is not just a technology hacker. A good CTO that is a good fractional CTO understands the strategic direction of the business. I mean, that's a key component. You're not coming in to solve a technology problem. You're really coming in to solve a business problem. So yes, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. Now, the primary focus is through technology, and obviously there are roles designated for those other opportunities. Uh, I've had my career with a few years of exceptions, almost exclusively in the startup world. So in the startup world, we are accustomed to wearing multiple hats. So while my primary 95% of my expertise and 95% of my focus is obviously building a technology roadmap, but I interface with the sales, the marketing, the finance, the CEO, everybody else in the operations, because all of these are effectively addressed better in a technology through technology, just like Bill Gates says. Through technology leadership is achieved. So yes.
And it feels like you're seeing a fractional CTO position where you're solving a business problem through technology. It's not going in and solving a technological problem or just looking at issues within the product and solving code. It's solving the business problem through technology. When you are working in a startup place, because you say you wear multiple hats, if someone is considering, they're considering to get a fractional CTO or a CTO, and they're kind of going through the interview process and they're talking to companies and they're thinking about it. What are some of the green flags and what are some of the red flags that a CEO should look at when it comes to in the early phase? What are some of the questions, the green flags, the red flags, what they need to ask or they need to consider before bringing a CTO or a fractional CTO?
So they need to make sure the CTO is well rounded. This is the key selling points of a fractional CTO. Rounded meaning that's just what we talked about. So since we are interacting not so as an example, a pain point might be quality of service or timely delivery, but the business problem to be addressed is could be team alignment. Maybe there are some internal conflicts or internal prioritizations that are mismatched, and that is in a way resulting in the quality of service that are poor. So the first red flag is exactly that. We are not looking to someone to solve the technology in a very narrow sense. Oh, the quality of code should be increased, therefore I should I should rewrite the code because to make the call, and that might be a mistake, and most likely would be a mistake. But you need to make sure the root cause is identified, uh, so that maybe it's a team alignment, maybe it's the CEO putting pressure on the team, maybe it's the wrong people on the wrong job, maybe not enough, maybe too much, maybe the process is broken, and maybe the code is broken. We need to look at everything. We need to look at everything. So the first red flag is very narrow viewpoint. The green flag is somebody with a vast variety of experience. I would say, with a few exceptions, like biotechnology, which requires knowledge in the specific industry. In my personal viewpoint, a broad experience across multiple industries from a technology CTO standpoint helps a lot, as long as the CTO is able to rapidly understand the business of the industry. So if I have never worked, as an example, in aerospace, I should either be capable of understanding the industry quickly or have experience in that. But in general, a broad experience across multiple industries with reasonable depth in each industry helps to bring a different perspectives to the table. And yeah.
Right, got it. It's very interesting, and it feels counterintuitive that you want to have someone that has a lot more experience as opposed to very niche focus specific to one thing. You're saying that if they're well-rounded and they have experience in multiple technologies, they have to demonstrate they can learn it rapidly, but it will give you benefits because they have experienced things and have different viewpoints as opposed to just a very narrow, the example you gave with fixing the code.
And that is all the more true in a fractional CTO, where the engagement could be 3 to 6 months, could be a year. So you have to come in, solve that underlying root cause problem, and move on to the next client or the next problem within the organization. So it's someone who can come in rapidly, and one of the challenges in finding one of the challenges that a lot of companies experience in filling a full-time CTO is exactly that. They might be looking for domain expertise, someone who has worked in the industry for long, and so then a fractional CTO, if you expect that in a fraction, that's a red flag. That's something that the CEO should be flexible for when looking for a fractional CTO, because you bring in the expertise, broad expertise.
Got it. It's a very interesting thing to keep in mind when you're starting an engagement, if you're thinking of that perspective. Now, let's say the CEO went through the hiring process, they went through those things, they've identified a person, they brought them in, they're tackling short-term pain points, and they're looking at the long-term vision. What are the differences when companies want to grow between like a startup, and what are the differences when a company that is already large and very successful, when they want to grow in terms of like through the lens of a CTO?
Yeah, so through the lens of a CTO, when you are an early stage startup, the most important thing is the product market fit. And there's some marketing folks call it the market product fit. Either way, you need to ensure the technology is delivering the right product, not just building more of the product, not just building. If it's the wrong product anyway, then we are all wasted time. So the primary focus is, and there are ways from a technology landscape, there are ways from a product standpoint, you look at the product market fit, you iterate and test. But from a technology lens point, you lay the architecture, the framework to rapidly experiment. So that you would capture information, how the usage patterns were, which feature the customer used. So you build the infrastructure to capture the usage patterns. You support the product team in identifying what can be built faster. You build faster and iterate quicker. So those are the primary areas of focus in early stage startups. As the company grows and has a steady revenue and there is a product market fit and they want to scale, then from a technology standpoint, you scale. You lay the foundation for scaling. Scaling is architectural scalability. So make sure you build a technology architecture that can scale with number of users. You build process scaling. You build people scaling. So process meaning the internal processes that you use to build, architect, design, deploy. Make sure that those are scalable. And there are several tools out there with the AI out there. You leverage AI to minimize the work required. So nowadays you incorporate AI in all your process, beginning from product market fit to development to testing to communication to automation. So those are scalable patterns. So incorporate all of those AI available. It's available in the market, and boldly use them. But the key is tools or no tools. The thought process is build a scalable foundation so that you can scale. That's the focus.
Scalable foundation. And in the startup world, when we talk about the product market fit, you said one of the key things that are important is to lay out the architecture to test and to see the usage patterns. How much should the CTO and the leadership team invest or allow testing and innovation in the early stages? How much flexibility should they give a team to make mistakes or to make assumptions or to pull data to test and to kind of see what they can do with architecture they have to kind of test things, see things, learn from those things in those early stages?
So that is a cultural question.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cultural meaning. Do you allow your team to experiment? Do you allow your team to make mistakes? Or are you punishing the team if there's a small mistake made? So that's one of the roles of a CTO that we did not mention earlier, but laying the cultural foundation is important. But yes, so you have to allow for mistakes, and that is part of product market fit. If you have laid the framework for quick iterations, and if you have laid the framework for experimentation, that is the very definition of allowing for mistakes. You make an assumption, find out quickly that it's flawed. You iterate through that and make a different assumption. They don't call it assumption, but hypothesis. You make an hypothesis that I believe this will solve the problem, and I like that because it gets things out of the system of individuals. Sometimes you make some assumption, even including the CEO, because he likes a certain feature, he or she likes a certain feature, they get attached to it. So that's a good let's get it out. Let's find out what the market tells us. But you have to lay the foundation and the culture to say that we are a metrics-driven organization, meaning we will look at a data-driven organization rather. We will look at the data to inform us of whether it works or not and how well it works, not just because it's a pet project, you like it, we don't want to spend time. So yeah, if you have some ideas, put it in the mix to experiment. The sooner we get it out of the system one way or the other, whether it works or not, the better it is for the organization. Then we can think of the new idea, a new opportunity, new feedback item from the customer or from ourselves. So yes, that is critical in a startup world. But it is critical, but the caution is you need to have the framework for data-driven culture and feedback loop and done rapidly. Otherwise, you are stuck. You can keep experimenting in the wrong direction if you don't have that. So you need it goes together.
They go together. And we're talking a little bit more now about the CEO and what they play here as a role, because we talked a little bit about the architecture where the CTO will lay the foundation and they're involved in the team and the culture and what is seen within. You also mentioned kind of the pet projects or other things that it's a team effort. It's a collective. So we have to take the CEO in consideration. How should a founder or a CEO support the CTO? What are the roles? What are the things that a CEO should think of doing to support the CTO to achieve the common goal that they all have?
One thing that they might have to do is get out of the way. I was just kidding. That's one thing. As long as the strategic objectives are met. I'm just kidding to some extent, but not really, because the reason they have a lot of CEOs are excellent at is getting an idea off the ground. This is a founder CEO I've been a founder myself of a couple of companies, technology product startup founder, and getting the idea off the ground is one of the strengths of a good founder. The skill set, they might have got the idea, they might have hacked together the first version of the product, and so that is their great skill set. They know how to push it. But now to get to product market fit or scalability is a different skill set. If they have that skill set, great, they can move on, they can manage, they can oversee their product. But if product market fit requires a data culture, it requires feedback, it requires objectively looking at data as opposed to opinions to get the product from 0 to 1, just an idea off the ground. idea is great. You make that idea, and if you introduce too much processes into that, it may inhibit the growth, the founding company. So number one, recognizing that. So number one is recognize if you have the skills or not. If you do, great, take it forward. If you don't, and the CTO you bring on board has the requisite skills for product market fit, recognize that it's a different skill. Support the organization because the CEO is very instrumental in uh, informing the company of the direction change when you bring on a fractional CTO. So they might have been doing certain things in a certain way. They might be team members who've been in the organization for years, doing it in the way that the CEO has laid the culture, and setting the stone that we are going to change for the better is an important role from the CEO perspective.
Got it. It's interesting because that drive and that motivation to get it off the ground and push it forward and to get it to a good place is definitely what a good CEO and founder, co-founder, like the startup team, is very successful. And at one point, you get into this mindset that is the only way, when there is different ways, just because you're in it day in, day out. And even when you bring other people, it's hard to get out of the way and to let someone else help and support in that perspective. So
that's a hard thing to do, and I mean it's a hard thing to let go. So I understand, and that's why, to my earlier point, the CTO needs to be broad based, meaning if he's narrow focused on solving a technology problem, the CEO is obviously focused on solving the business problem. There are tensions that might arise because the technology solution that the CTO proposed may not effectively address the business challenge. So then that's when the CEO is frustrated with the CTO. So if the CTO understands and what the business objective is, and business objective, when I say business objective, it could be sales, it could be the growth of the company. I mean, understanding what's driving it and how technology plays a part in that is where there is synchronization then with the CEO and the CTO. So that's an important aspect. And some CTOs, I must say, are focused too much on the technology, and then that's a challenge. And then the CEO cannot be blamed in that scenario for stepping in, interfering, not letting go, because he or she wants the business problem to be addressed.
What do you say when I'm trying to think of Mark Zuckerberg? What was his early quote in Facebook? Like, build fast, break things. How does a CTO deal with a founder that says build fast, break things, because their business goal is user acquisition at the most rapid way? So what does that environment look like for a CTO if the founder was like, I want rapid growth of users, we got funding, I can inject cash into this, build fast, break things? What does a good CTO do in that situation?
So before you do that, the foundation architecture is important. That foundation of capturing data objectively. Now, so Facebook have invested millions and millions of dollars in that. Not every startup is able to now with the AI tools, it's become easier, but it's a relative word. And there is a cost to build an architecture that can assimilate feedback, but there's also a cultural integration that requires people to look at the feedback objectively and take action based on that. So what it looks like is, are we willing, may not be the short-term pain point that companies are looking for. So that is more a medium and long-term approach that we have to lay the foundation to build fast if it doesn't already exist. But without that foundation, you can talk about build fast, break fast. Without the right, Facebook has, so we in Instagram or Facebook, they push out features. Anybody can push out features, and you get tested by, it gets tested by a subset of the population that they push it out to, and they look at that feedback, objectively look at the numbers. No, and so you need to build that framework first. So yeah, once built, the framework is not rocket science to build, but it takes effort and time to build it right. So once you build that framework, yeah, then yes, absolutely, you can build fast, break fast.
And I like your I like what you're saying here, because you're taking a very kind of rational approach to it. Like, yes, it sounds cool, build like, but they did that because there was a foundational architecture done, and it was in place to be able to do those things. It's not just, okay, we got the cool place, we got a product, and now let's just go because I heard this cool code and this is what they did, and nothing happens. Like, yeah, you're building and you're breaking, but you're breaking and you're just working, and you're not knowing what is good, what is bad, what are we doing, what is the user sentiment, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's good to look at it a rational way, that if you want to do that, then this needs to be in place, and we can definitely achieve this, like you said, medium goal. It's not really like a short-term goal. Now, all the examples that I think people will have would be from a tech founder. What we talked off camera was that there is a huge amount of people that are not tech founders of SaaS or technology companies. They might be in different industries, and they might be from different walks of life. They just found a solution and they start getting a team or CTO, and they kind of go around that way. What are the things that you do when you have a founder that is not a tech founder? What is the approach from a CTO perspective? What are the goals? What are the things that you are communicating with that founder to, like, this is what I've seen time and time again that are the good first KPIs that you want to hit, because you're not in the technology space, you're from a different industry. What are the first KPIs that we need to hit together as someone that is not a tech founder?
Yeah. So first of all, tech founder is, I think it represents, the word is a tech company founder. It could be founded by anybody, right? It could be founded by both. Yeah. So at the time that we come in, a lot of non-tech founders recognize they don't have the technology background. So they don't have it, and they are looking to complement their skills. And so there is a hope from when they bring us on board that we would help them solve their problem. They will solve their problem. So the way we get started is really no different. I mean, so I don't really distinguish between this or that, quite frankly. But there is a hope and expectation that they have, because they have learned things. The reality is, in order to build their product from 0 to 1, they have built a product. They don't call us typically when they have it's an idea on a napkin paper, right? That's not when they typically call us as a fraction CTO. They are building the first, in more often than not, they are building the first version of the product on their own. And they have learned a lot of technology leadership skills to build the first version of the product. So in a sense, they may not have learned it the right way. They might have hacked their way to it, but they have built something. So now, and then they recognize it's chaotic, and so then they bring us on to address chaos and technology architecture and scalability and things of the nature, or product market fit, depending on the stage of the company is. So it's more a difference in terms of expectation. The CEO who's got a technology background, he believes he has done it the right way. And the reason he brings us on board is he now needs to focus on sales and the business and the marketing efforts. So he needs someone to offload the technology component. But very frankly, even depending on the number of years of experience, I mean, I've done a CTO equivalent role for 20 years, leadership technology. So even if he's a technical founder, he might have been a developer, he might have been a senior manager. So there's levels of depth of experience in leading a technology organization that are different from depending on the person. But the expectation, so that's in terms of KPI metrics, they are the same. And I don't distinguish between, I don't mean that's because everybody has different skills. But the first metrics is the short-term problems, whatever the case might be. Uh, how effectively are we addressing the short-term pain? And for most cases, it is customer satisfaction, because that's the short-term. That is the short-term pain. So how effectively? So in the short term, that's we need to address that. We need to address, or it is customer delivery, meaning, and which is correlated to customer satisfaction. So is the customer? So that's what we really focus on. Is the customer getting what they in the short? That's the short-term metrics that we look at.
Right, and I feel like there's a a good amount of software companies or tech companies that now the narrative, I would say, is this is what they promise. Does it really do that? Like it became before, it was like this is what they do, and that was it. Like this is what they do, and now it's like this is what they promised. Does it really do that? Because of that sentiment with time and with scalability has changed, and I think the minimum valuable product, that kind of idea that I probably like 15, 20 years ago kind of started, it has been rapidly expanding. Everybody launches a minimum valuable product and then kind of goes and builds out of that. When it comes to the new, since 2022 phenomena with AI, I have clients that are non-tech founders that have built a SaaS on a no-code, low-code with vibe coding and API connections. That's all there is to it. Whether that was with them or just one guy somewhere outsourced, and they're piecing things together, hacking through it, it starts to pick up traction, and it's just a unimaginable idea 5 years ago that like even smaller than what it was 5 years, with AI, with no code and low code platforms still popping out and kind of building from that way. If someone is a non-technical founder and they're like, I can build this, I've seen all these applications that are no code, low code, I can probably get one person or two people from Upwork or from somewhere and start this whole process. What would be the advice from a CTO perspective to someone that is a non-technical founder that is thinking of starting it with like a no code or a low code platform versus creating it from scratch, or how would that look like nowadays?
Sure. So the fundamentals have not changed. The fundamental is you need to get product market fit.
Okay.
So whether you use a low code or you use a 5-member team, or you build it with one person team, you need to build the right software. You need to build the code that the market needs. So before creating the first line of button or tool, you need to validate, you need to interview your customers, you need to make sure. So those concepts have not changed. And it's powerful that once you have, because once you have identified what will sell or what will get traction, and I'm not saying ask the customer, I'm just saying what delivers the results of customer acquisition. Once you have determined that, or you iterate, yeah, these tools allow you to get started. So the universe of people who can get started is widened, and I think that's a good thing. But that is what has increased, what has improved, what is made accessible is that 0 to 1. So taking your idea and building that, going from 0 to 1, yeah, that can be done with a variety of tools. But again, you should not get, one of the things that I've observed is every tool has some limitations. So when you need to work around it, not building the perfect solution, but you should not get lost in the minutiae or details of, oh, how do I get this product now to make it work here? Your focus should still be, is this a viable product if I build, and the effort am I in the right direction? Is to capturing that kind of data, Now, you cannot build the infrastructure to capture it in a 0 to 1 product. It takes effort. So there are manual efforts, manual methods to capture that data. But that feedback loop is important even at that stage. And it probably more so because it's easy to build, and because the challenge is once you build something, whether it's flawed or great, people get attached to it. So you build with a low code tool 0 to 1 that is not ready for the market. I mean, is not appropriate for the market, but now you're, even though it's a relatively small effort, you're attached to it. So you should step away and be objective and scrap it away and build again, because now it's relatively easier to build. But you need to have a culture of throwing away if it does not meet your purpose. And that's a hard one. And that hasn't changed. The attitudes have not changed. Whether I took 3 weeks to build something or 3 months to build something, once I have something, it's human tendency to latch onto it. So that you need to, as a founder, you need to let go, knowing that you can build something else in another 3 weeks.
Right. So it's this ability to go from 0 to 1 that has changed, because before it was the technical side, like there's no way to do it. Like, how do I even build that? That was just a question. Now it's here. You can start it, but you need to focus on product market fit, because there's a lot of tools and a lot of options that are out there. So you want to have that. The fundamental, like you said, has not changed. Have that answered. Start with a low code, no code kind of thing, but don't get attached to it, because you now have the ability to do it again. But version number 2.0 will be much better, and 3.0 will be much better, and you will change the architecture.
And the other thing that has happened is the bar is higher. So now a lot more people can do the basics.
Yes.
So if you do the basics that's available with these low code tools without understanding the market, there's a lot more people who will do that. And so you have to differentiate. I mean, and again, it comes back to the product market fit. Yeah.
Now, when we're looking at starting these things and eventually building it, and now it's scalable and now it's growing, like we mentioned, 2022, we started having ChatGPT and AI becoming more and more normal and used. And I think I looked at like the most recent stat. I want to say it was from Anthropic, but don't quote me on this one. Like the number one use case for AI and LLM was coding and software development. Like that was the number one user, like by far, like a huge difference between, and then everyone else, like sales, marketing, research, whatever. But like number one was coding, developing, software development was the number one reason why people would use AI, LLM, and all these things. How far has AI gotten in this span of time? Like today, when we look at AI, how far has it gone from like 2022? Is it in a place where it's like doing like miraculous things were like close to impossible that you couldn't imagine, or it's at a place where it's stagnated? It hits the ceiling and then now it's kind of stagnating.
No, every day I use it, I see an improvement. I mean, I'm figuratively, literally saying that. So what was yesterday? It gave some feedback on what to fix. I use it today, the same tool. I mean, there are improvements happening. So it's constantly evolving. I just I recently had a developer work on something which said, give me the problem. Here's the problem, fix it, update the code, push it out to the customer. Now there are steps so that you can just describe the problem and it fixes it, and you don't have the AI agents can do that. Now if you take that as an example, I see that is coming, because I see when we tried that, there are some broken parts there. There is a manual intervention required at every stage, but I can almost see that's not far off. I think the space of improvements that are happening, and I tried this with my PowerPoint slide that I was making. I said, give me feedback on the slide and update it, and 4.5 ChatGPT actually updated the PowerPoint.
From a example of coding it, fixing the code, and pushing it live to the customer to just fixing a PowerPoint slide. You're saying I see the improvement and gets better and better every day. Do you have questions people ask you like, hey, what about security? Like, I have a company, we're a massive company. What do we do with these LLMs? We don't want our patents and our processes to be completely available to the world. Do you have questions like that from a CTO?
Yeah, I mean, every day those questions keep coming up. In 80%, 75% of my world is growing startups, and that tends to be less of a concern, relatively speaking, because unless they are in the healthcare space or something. But yeah, larger organizations ask that question, and it's and you have to be careful. Now you can build a local model where your data is, so and we do that all the time. So we have, instead of using ChatGPT's API, we download a local open source model and interact it that way. So your data is contained within that, and that seems to be upload your data only, and it learns only from your data. So that's a very frequent use case, and we address that through using local models as opposed to that to address the pain point. That's a short-term pain point, but and that works. That works. Now you have to keep maintaining the model. You have to apply patches. You hope that the open source model becomes as good as the other model, and it will. And it seems, again, from what I'm seeing every day, because in the early days, it would give a good enough answer, and we would spend a lot of time copying and pasting. So the human is relegated to copying, pasting, validating. I see that task also going to be taken over pretty soon, if not completely, but at least for the most part. And that's a relief. That's a relief.
I mean, even the newer ones, almost all of them now have, I've noticed these two ones that keep showing up. When you do speech to text, so you don't need to type it, you can say it and it will know what you say. And also when it shoots out a huge research to like, Perplexity is good for this, like it will shoot out so much information, and then there's a button to summarize all of that with voice, so it reads it, because it did detect, like the team did detect that these were the issues. You would get a massive research. It's really long to go through it. I'm talking like maybe 10-15 pages on something that you ask, because again, it goes in super details. And then the typing, you keep repeating the same things. Yes, the prompts and all those things are important, but at one point you start kind of repeating, so saying it was becoming a little bit easier, and I can see that it's going in that direction. Now, what about the more cutting edge stuff, AGI, when people are talking that will go to the next level? Is that far off?
It depends on who you listen to. Sundar Pichai, Apple thinks it's far off. So it depends on who. So yeah, but at the pace at which I see happening, and if the pace continues, that's it's amazing, the pace. So I can only judge based on the pace and growth that I'm seeing. It's different from last month. The issue, the challenges, that the outputs that are giving are different from the variety of tools. So we're heading fast in that direction. We're heading fast. I can say that.
Do you see like this is like 1990s 2000 kind of analogy? Do you see someone that is leaning in the pack? What I mean by that is, back in the day we had Google, we had Yahoo. There was a couple of them competing to be the #1 search engine, and Google kind of dominated. Do you see in the AI space, do you see one starting to lead the pack, or do you kind of see it's too early in the stage? They need a little bit more time to want to kind of start doing that, like Google separation in terms of AI?
Yeah. So I've been in the startup world for as long as my career is, and one of the hardest things I've learned is impossible to predict which startup is going to succeed. So the ideas that I felt in the early days, I've been involved with multiple startups. I've invested in startups. I have worked with tens and tens of startup advice works. I've mentored a lot of in hundreds startup companies over the course of my career. Uh, and when I look back at the ones that succeeded, it was hard. There was no way I could have. There was no time. There was no easy predictor. Now I haven't taken the time to look at the data patterns for the companies that I've been involved with and interacted with to really know if there was a pattern and what the pattern is. But the ones that seemed extremely promising today fizzled out at some other time. So, but some new winners are going to happen. I think the biggest winners are, in my personal feeling, we don't know the biggest winners yet. Maybe OpenAI is the big winner now. Perplexity is, and they might be the ones, but it's hard. We don't know. Maybe the biggest winners are yet to be determined.
Do you see teams using different tools? Like I think it's called Quant 3 from AliExpress and Alibaba, DeepSeek that is from China. Do you see teams trying any other, like you've never heard of this one, but it's big in other parts of the world, not here in Canada, US?
I think it is whatever gets the job done and whatever gets traction. So if you are solving a problem, so yes, the answer is I do see that, because it's as easy to use one tool as another now. The difference in both, all of them tend to have, as long as they have basic API, from a developer perspective, as long as you can invoke APIs and bring it, it's not that hard to experiment and try. So I think there might be it's a human tendency to stick to what you know. That's the default nature. So there are a few experimenters in the population that will try different ones. But I think it's a lot of it is marketing. It's a kind of outcomes. Yeah, but yes. We have, some of my clients stick with one. I've seen some clients just stick with one, and they start with OpenAI and stick with it, and come what may, they're sticking with it. So I have clients in that one. I have clients who, there's a newest tool out there, and that's the other extreme. But most people are somewhere in between. They keep it. They've encountered a problem. What else can solve it? That's the vast majority are there. They're there. So yes, so I do see that happening.
Fantastic. It's good to see that variety. I switch between several. I have so with Google, you have Gemini. It's part of your work. If you buy the Gmail, so you have Gemini, and Gemini is pretty good because it covers a lot of stuff and it's included in your stuff. I've tried when DeepSeek launched research, when that was like the reasoning. I was like, let me see, because no one else had it. Then within a couple of days or weeks, it was O3 Mini that OpenAI tried. But I tried DeepSeek with that one. I'm like, it's interesting. It was very different to see how they kind of tells you what it's thinking and how it's thinking. Anthropic through for like writing stuff, it was very different in the beginning. Now they're kind of getting close to, I would say. There's different use cases where Notebook LM for Google, yes, you load your videos, you load your PDFs, and then you can start kind of drawing concepts. That is what the prompt would be, and then you load it somewhere else. That is also a good way of how I've seen it to work, and it really became like a use case. No longer do I see Claude is the best for writing. That was like the early days. It was very different. This one is good for reasoning. This one is good for mathematical. This one is good. Now they kind of, at least when I use it, they're kind of getting there, and it's more like a Notebook LM does research. Great. Perplexity, I can pull from different, like a next level Google search. Good, I'll use that one for that. ChatGPT, we'll have ChatGPT or Gemini because it's part of Google Workspace, and I kind of stick with those things. It's what I've seen when it comes to the agentic stuff. Now you start to look at the APIs and the calls and the prices for these things. When they're saying about AI will replace people, or I think it was Upwork CEO that he had like a letter, or Shopify as well, where they said, we're not going to hire until you can show me that AI can do it. So we're not going to hire people until you show me that AI cannot do it, and then we'll hire people. Do you see, with the companies that you work with, do you see those kind of narratives, or that is like the extreme. Usually you just get it for the team to support them. Or I see both. I see where someone says AI only, AI focus, and then if I can't do it with AI, then I hire people. Or you see a combination where they're like, yeah, we have people, so we're going to give them AI now and train them on AI.
I think from what I've observed, again, my sample size is my clients.
Yeah.
From that perspective, it's an AI first model, meaning experiment with it, but create. I mean, that's the intent. That's the intent. They're also so you experiment with it. Set higher. The expectations are higher now because a lot of CEOs have read that the AI can do this and that and this and that. So the expectations are higher. So the culture is expected to be AI first. So I had a very interesting client. So they had to re-architect their entire product because they had a version, they had a legacy product, and they said we need to roll out this product. It needs to be re-architected in a certain way, and we need to try different models and stuff like that. So they had a team of one developer who built the legacy model over 2 years. To build the new architecture in the traditional way required, maybe 4 people over 3 months or 4 months to build it. So what we did instead is we hired 2 interns with that one developer. We trained the two, and I think we landed up with 3 interns at the end. But 2 to 3 interns test this model. Which model was so? It was more. So we got the one developer with 3 interns, and the interns were primarily used for testing which model works, reporting the data, collecting the data to see which one works. And so in 1 month, a new version of the product with 1 developer and 3 interns was delivered. So they didn't hire any more in that example. They did not hire any more senior level developers, and these interns were just fresh out of college, enthusiastic to learn, and they were installing, trying different models. So we tried we tried all the models out there to see which one produces the best result for a variety of use cases. Build 70% of the product, the new user interface, build 60 to 70% of the product through AI tools out there, plugged in through API calls, the remaining manually. So there was a 30% manually, but one really competent, and that's the key, one really competent developer. So the team structure, in effect, the budget did not increase significantly from a resource standpoint. We spend more money on tools and CPUs and stuff like that. And we actually, in hindsight, we spent as much as one developer did. The cost on CPUs and stuff like that, but we needed all that. But it's a scalable solution.
Right.
That was one example. Yeah.
You do see the AI first model. It can be like a very rigorous, depending on the size of the company and the culture, or it can be kind of like, hey, there is a project and we will do this with AI first and see how it works, where it's not 100% one developer, here's a bunch of LLMs. It was one developer with 3 interns. They learned firsthand experience. This is how the real world will be. Next time you might get a job where that's kind of where it will be, because this is where more and more teams are leading. And you start to see, instead of the old way of getting 2, 3, 4 developers, 3 interns, 1 developer, and a lot of resources, got the project done within a shorter time it took someone years.
And the skill set has changed. That one competent developer I gave you, now it's not a question of writing code. You can take your legacy code and say, rewrite this in the new framework, and in seconds your code is available. You need to validate it, of course, but now the job is, they tested which one, how do I integrate with all the workflows? So it's a question of, the data is available there with this tool doing this particular workflow. Another tool is available to deliver another workflow. and yet a third tool is available. Now I need to integrate all of these. So the developer's job is now, stringing it together, making it a complete whole, making it a complete filling. So you're not just building a monolithic solution with one. So I mean, the API world you are integrating, but I think the integrations have with the AI tools, each one doing slightly different things, takes integration to the next level. So that's an exciting world. So if you have integration abilities, hacking your way, experimenting, you are in demand.
Nice. All right. Ram, let's say someone listened to this whole thing and they find this very interesting and they like your approach and all the stuff that you've shared with us today. How do people get a hold of you to work with you?
Sure. The easiest way to get hold of me is on LinkedIn. Search for my name, Ram Prasad Delens, and I'll show up, and send me a message. That's one way to get hold of me. The other way to go is my website, delence.com, DELENCE.com, and there's a contact us page there, or you can, those are the two ways to reach me.
Fantastic, Ram. Thank you so much for this. Very informative, and we're changing the world with technology. Thank you so much for all your time.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Zivko. I appreciate it.